Good morning, folks. Starting to see a lot of folks showing up. It's great to see everyone. We'll get started here very, very soon. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Casey. Hey, Miss Helen. Give me a thumbs up if y'all can hear me. Hey, Octavio. All right, awesome. All right, so we've got about 17 people coming in. We're going to give this like maybe 1 or 2 minutes as folks are joining. And let me see if Oscar has been able to join us just yet. But welcome, everybody. Welcome to our second QIP series for Linkage to Care. Hey, Jasmine and Joni. What's up, Kim? Kim, I got to speak with Terry at HSNT earlier this week with EHE, and I remembered that when Michael and I were visiting with you all in person, that we got to meet Terry. So that was a fun experience. Hi, Angie. All right. Let's see if Oscar is here. Hi, Angie. I'm just going through some Zoom functions. So y'all, it looks like Zoom has changed some of their webinar settings. And we're just getting settled in and used to all those. So give me a moment and we'll have all of the folks come on in here.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Miss Helen. Yeah, I have to like admit folks and allow them to talk. There's some definite changes to the webinar feature. So you're going to start to see everybody pop up on the screen. You can again remute yourself. And as folks are getting settled in and joining, I'll ask you to see if you can rename yourself. Hey, David, what's up? And if you can rename yourself, maybe put your organization or Miss Helen, if you're a community member, planning council member, advocate. I know you wear a ton of hats. So
Jamie,
hey, Jamie.
just real fast, as a participant, the chat is currently disabled, but the Q&A is active. I'd also like to point out that participants are actually not able to relabel themselves.
Okay, I wondered. Well,
You know, Michael, you can relabel yourself if you do it before you get on this call. Because when I came on, I was asked before saying join, I was asked to go to settings and rename myself. And I did that.
Oh, thanks, Helen. I must
Jamie,
have missed that.
Can you hear me? This is Joni.
Yeah, we can. Hi.
Hi. There's no camera function or anything at the bottom. I
For
know
me
Michael said
either.
the chat's disabled. You must have just unmuted me. So good morning. I couldn't say good morning to you previously, but I don't have all the normal controls at the bottom and no ability to share my camera. Not that I need to. Y'all don't need to see me, but just to let you know.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so we'll do a couple of house rules. First of all, I apologize. It looks like some of the settings have changed. So that has to do with the camera feature. So we're going to miss your gorgeous faces, but we're going to still have an awesome session. I think we have a lot of great information. As folks are admitted, I do have to open up the settings for them. So if you were speaking or you're speaking now and you're like, hello, 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 I just have to have a moment to fix that in the settings. So as Michael mentioned, there's not a chat feature down at your bottom part of your screen, which we're all used to seeing in Zoom meetings, but there is a Q&A. So if you click on the Q&A, that's how we're going to utilize the chat and we're going to be able to speak with one another. I want to say thank you to David. So he let folks know if they incidentally join Teams to use the registration link. I want to welcome Jonathan to the room. I want to welcome Julie from the state, and Brett, girl, you got it. We're going to make this Q&A chat-tastic, and we're going to repurpose it. So if folks want to follow Brooke's lead and open up the Q&A, if you want to put your name and your organization or sort of how you're involved in our prevention and care networks, that would be awesome. And I just need to see, I don't see Oscar just yet, but folks are continuing to join. Some other quick house rules. This is going to be recorded. Let me make sure recording is happening right now. So again, we're going to upload the recording to our YouTube page. And then we also have the slide deck and other materials available in the toolkit, which is on Glass Cubes. And we can also circulate that for folks like Miss Helen or Lionel and those, Sandra, those who maybe don't have a Glass Cubes login. So hey, Del, thank you. Hey, Michael. It's great to see everyone. So Michael, would you care to maybe send Oscar a quick text? We had 38 folks registered, and we in fact have 32 people on. So I am inclined to go ahead and get started here fairly soon. Can we also just test some mics? So Angie, do you want to make sure that you can speak, and then we'll have Octavio follow you? Just a quick sound check.
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me. My camera function's not working and nothing really is working. And Oscar can't get on at all, I think.
I'm having the same situation with the, I'm not a robot, I'm a robot, not a robot, register again. I have registered like 15 times again.
So we may all be in my office in a second.
That's
just coming
fine.
in.
That's
But
fine.
when you share the slides, I don't know if we'll be able to see them. We may just have to pull them up here and just do the best we can. And I don't know about the breakout room
able to.
function. Is that working?
Yeah, so Angie, really, we just want to do an audio check real quick, and you
Okay.
sound great. We hear you perfectly.
Okay.
We can also hear Oscar. What I'll do is share slides on my end, and we should still be able to roll like normal. Can we do just a quick sound check for OP?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hey, you sound great. And Julie Saber, let's hear from Julie real quick.
Good morning, everybody. Julie Saber, Quality Coordinator Nurse at DSHS.
All right, so we've got everybody on and live. Again, the camera feature is not working, but you're okay. Everyone is able, should be able to unmute themselves and talk. We're gonna do a little bit of pivot, you know what I mean? But it's nothing that we can't handle. We still have a fabulous webinar scheduled for you today. And just because the technology has been a little funky monkey doesn't mean that our content isn't still balling. So I'll keep my Q&A open. If we could also have, just some help monitoring that with the Q&A. And we want to also welcome Cassie and Norma and Astrid and others. So thanks again for using that Q&A. I will share my slides. And again, there's just been some changes, it appears, to the webinar setting. So we'll pivot later for our breakout groups, but nonetheless, y'all, we have some fabulous content. So looking at the time, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen. Just a quick thumbs up or a verbal yeah from anybody, just to make sure folks can see my screen.
We can see.
Yeah.
See your screen.
Yeah, we can
Yes.
see your screen.
Okay.
Jamie, I just want to say one thing real fast. I believe
Sure.
unless I am promoted to be a facilitator or a panelist, I don't think that I have access to the Q&A. So I really want to support you on it, but I can't see it.
That's fine. Can no one see the Q&A? But like
We
y'all.
can
I
only
can
see
see
our
it.
own. Oh, okay,
Yeah,
great.
only our own questions.
Okay.
You know,
Oh, is that
Jamie,
what
this
happened?
is Helen.
Hi, Miss Helen.
We cannot see the Q&A when it's just you speaking and we see a big you. But when you put the what do you call it? The items you're putting on the screen, then we can see the Q&A.
Okay.
When you share, like right now, there's no Q&A.
That is a glitch from Zoom.
Got it.
Okay,
Well,
but
I
I
promoted.
can now see, when you're the little you, I can see the Q&A.
Okay. Well, I will try to get little. I'm promoting Angie and Oscar's there with you. Michael, Octavio, I'm promoting you to panelists, so that might help. But I do have the Q&A open. Let me also see, hey, Kat, I want to welcome Katrina here. Folks might recognize her from some of the status neutral needs assessment work that she's been doing. So we're gonna continue on. I can see the Q&A. You're also welcome to unmute yourself, and we'll just do the very best that we can. Make lemonade out of some lemons. So again, folks can see my screen. Oscar, do you want to say a quick word of welcome?
Are we, Mike?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. So absolutely, and doesn't matter. It's raining, it's cloudy, it's sunny, it's hot, it's cold. Doesn't matter. We are so happy to be here at this level. Link Us to Care is the new one for 23-24. The Link Us to Care project is the one QIP that we are actually in compliance with HRSA requirements with this QIP. We have to have one project running, and we are so happy to be here on this project, which is kind of a follow-up from the last year. Return to Care, Link Us to Care. This is kind of connected, and we thank you for each of you. Thank you for EHE being here with us and collaborating. And we have the state. We have some folks from Parkland out of the testing site. Welcome, guys. And whatever we need, whatever you need from us, we are here to help. And this is one of the follow-up on the kickoff. We're still kicking off because we have some glitches on the reporting, glitches on the forms, but doesn't matter. It's raining, but we are happy. So welcome everyone to the new Link Us to Care 2023 Regional Quality Improvement Project. Angie?
Thanks, Oscar. Angie will progress the slides. Go for it, girl. And we can skip the chat function there at the top, but the rest of it, Angie, walk us through it.
Okay, hold on. Did you say I'm progressing slides or you're progressing slides?
I'm advancing the slides.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You're
So
fine.
yeah, good morning, everybody. We are starting out with our second webinar today. And I think, because what we mentioned before, some of you joined late, we're having some Zoom issues. And so you may not be able to relabel yourself or rename yourself. Some of the regular functions for Zoom may not be maybe disabled at this time. As before, I couldn't see my camera. Now I can see it, but it's saying that the host has to do something to it. So just make sure everybody's muted unless you're ready to talk and you have something to say. If you are able to use your cameras, feel free to do so, but we understand if you can, because we have some little funky things going on today. And just if I put a question, something in the question and answer thing and ask if anybody can see it. And nobody said anything or I don't see anything. So we may not be able to do that function.
Yeah, I can see it, Angie. So
Oh, you
I'll
see it?
monitor the Q&A. No one has actually asked a question yet. Folks have kind of said good morning and put their name and their agency, which is excellent. But I can see it and I can monitor it. And then I can make it go live. So if an individual
I can't see it.
has something, yeah,
All
we're
right.
still good.
Okay, so just a reminder that the recording is being, the meeting is being recorded and it will be in the toolkit along with the other items. Next slide, please.
You got it, sister.
So today our objectives include trying to increase awareness of our AA level resources. We've been exploring different relationships with different departments here at the AA at DCHHS. So we're trying to see what we can do here to support our Links to Care project. We want to create peer learning opportunities today for everyone who's participating so that they can better understand the EMA and the HSDA challenges and facilitators of the project. And we want to directly connect the model for improvement, those 3 strategic questions, to your linkage to care current state that you're in right now. Next slide, please. The glass cubes does contain lots of documents, and one of those things are our toolkit. And so the slides for today's presentation, along with 2 things from dishes, we have the DMAIC Links to Care charter from the state that Julie updated and is there for us. All the AAs are having we are participating in that project for the state, which our project that you all are participating in falls into that. So the state has posted some information for your viewing and also questions for the field. I think it's 10 questions that will be useful to you guys as you work through your QI project or in that toolkit as well, along with the action planning form and our recording that once we finish today's webinar. And I think I'm kicking it over to Jamie now.
Actually, I think we're gonna hear from Michael Hager. Talk to us a little bit about the linkage to care framework.
Oh, yeah, it's my pleasure. And thank you everyone for bearing with us with this technology stuff. I was joking with some folks before we even started. I worked on a proposal for like 3 weeks and then SharePoint ate it. So we all understand how this stuff goes. And thank you for your understanding. So in terms of our framework, we have our same process and stepwise approach that we've always taken for quality. It's our Dallas way. We have a discovery process where we are looking at all of the available data to tell us where we might put our efforts, where we might inspect to identify more information that helps us to refine our efforts, or who we need to talk to next to identify some steps. Next, we identify what those next things would be based on the discovery by completing a root cause analysis. This could be done using a fishbone, a driver diagram, or some other process, 5 whys, that really helps us to develop our change ideas that we're wishing to test and to check out how we might actually bring up about improved performance. Once we've identified our change ideas that are tied to root causes based on our discovery information, then we start to implement our tests of change, and we use our PDSA forms for that process. So I just wanted to remind everyone that we are in the discovery process now for all of you as subrecipients. The AA completed its discovery process in the end of 2022 and was beginning to set the stage for this project in collaboration with our state partners in alignment with the Texas Linkage to Care project in early 2023. So we're expecting that many of you are still trying to figure out what data you have available. We know that many of you have asked us questions about those, the performance measure that we have created for QIP this year. And so we're really excited to engage with you in this journey that you're on now related to your discovery and rounding the corner into root causes. So I think that is about it. And Jamie, fill in anything if I've missed it.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. I mean, really what we want to reiterate is that any QI project, any regional QI project, it always boils down to these 3 phases. And so again, like Angie mentioned with our learning objectives, we'll do a check-in, and through some group questions and discussion, we'll get a snapshot of where folks are, if they're still in the discovery phase, if they've maybe moved on to identifying root causes, which ultimately inform change ideas. So now what I want to do is I want to share, when we think about the framework, again, everything we do is going to fall into one of these 3 phases. And we actually have our dishes partners. We have some special guests from the state who want to talk about how our Linkage to Care project rolls up and fits within statewide linkage efforts, because again, that influences the sort of overall framework that we're working in. I want to point out one difference between the state and our regional project has to do with the amount of time between diagnosis and linkage, but overall it's still a linkage focus. And so Julie Saber, let me share your slides and you can take us through the wealth of information you've brought forward for folks today.
Thank you, Jamie. Good morning, everybody. I'm Julie Saber, the quality coordinator nurse with DSHS. And I'm sure, or at least I hope you've heard by now, that we have a statewide initiative, or in other words, quality improvement project, and we need all hands on deck to be successful. It's something that most of us are always already working on anyway in the HIV workforce, most of us are always focused on improving access to care, health outcomes, and making sure everything is equitable to our people living in Texas and beyond. Our division at DSHS has selected a couple of initiatives for us to really focus our work on over the next 3 years. And one of them is improving linkage to HIV medical care for newly diagnosed people living in Texas, or even if they just moved to Texas, right? But if they get linked here, we want to, or get diagnosed here, we want to link them as soon as possible. Our timeline, like I mentioned, is, well, now it's 2 years. We started planning in 2022. I know that's really a long timeline for a QI project, but really it's an initiative. The project itself has little chunks where we go step by step, or phase 1, phase 2. Our first phase is to focus on our circle of influence, which is our Ryan White population. And so we fund the Part B program, and we partner with all the other parts in the Ryan White program. And so we're hoping all of you, no matter what your funder is, will join us in our efforts, as this is all about ending the HIV epidemic in Texas and beyond. And we know we're all working on that as well. There's a lot to it. We named our project the Texas Linkage to Care Project, but call it TLC. Of course, every region may have their own quality project. Yesterday, we had a stakeholder kickoff meeting with the 6 regional administrative agencies that are funded with Part B. There were other folks also from DSHS section team, from prevention, THMP, planning, and probably some other folks. I was the speaker, so I may have missed everyone in the room. But each of our AAs shared what they're working on as it relates to linkage to care. Some of them are in the beginning phases, and some of them are further along. Just a shout out to the Dallas team. They were really shined with their presentation. It was very detailed and focused, and had all the elements of a QI project that we've learned from all of the trainings that the AA has been providing y'all. But I don't want to go on and on. Is there anything specific you want me to touch on, Jamie or Michael or Oscar?
You've done a fabulous job, and we put together a couple of slides that you've really kind of spoken to. So you've really hit the nail on the head. Thinking about why linkage. And we did mention during the April kickoff, and to your point, Julie, that the linkage project really aligns with some priority initiatives of the state in general. And so what I like about this is it's just a reminder of finding the alignment. One of the things that you said that I loved was your circle of influence. So your goal is linkage regardless of payer, but you're doing things in phases, or you're doing things in chunks. And we know that that's going to include multiple test of change cycles and multiple PDSAs. So while your aim statement may have a time frame of August 2025, within that time, there's an iterative process, right? And you're going to scale up what's successful and go beyond, Part B as a payer. And one of the things we talk about all the time is locus of control. So you've really sort of reinforced that learning, talking about your guys' approach with your circle of influence. And so as we think about your purpose, we also wanted to share with folks your project charter. And one of the things that I want to remind people of is that as you report your linkage to care, your PDSAs, when you upload those to Glass Cubes, and Angie and I review them, in detail, when you report your QIP metric data, all of this stuff we aggregate and roll up. And this is something that Angie and Oscar are charged with. And actually, in the Dallas CQM quality management on our work plan, we have these reports to the state of where our linkage to care supports the TLC project. So I don't know, Julie, I also have some slides that talk about your meeting yesterday with all the AAs, and that comes next. But is there anything you want to say about this project charter, and or Oscar, is there anything you want to share about how Dallas County uses this similar template in order to share up with the state and also the other AAs what's happening in Dallas in regard to linkage to care. So Julie, I don't know if you want to add anything, and then we can involve Oscar if he has any other points too.
Absolutely, Jamie. And I apologize. I know you sent me the slides ahead of time and tried to help me prepare. I've just been really busy, so I'm a little off my game.
No
But
problem. I don't envy
absolutely-
you, girl. I don't envy the work that you have.
So we love this little template. We have a big report style project charter that we're always updating and working on, but this is a quick tool that we like to use because it helps you prepare your project and think about the most important issues. And it doesn't have to be completed all at once, right? This is, like Jamie said, also an iterative process. As you can see at the top, I initially started the charter in Q1 of 2023 or January, right? We had a stakeholder meeting then, and I wanted to prepare our subrecipients or administrative agencies to start filling in one of these project charters for their region. We had our second quarter or Q2 meeting yesterday, so I just updated it again with some new information. But it really helps you think about what's important. Why are we doing this? Why is it important to tackle now versus another priority that may be going on in your region? What's the purpose? How is it going to benefit our customers? And how, if at all, will it benefit the staff? Hopefully it will, right? For me, it's very rewarding to have a project and see it go throughout the whole timeline, and then see the successes or the failures, because we learn from all of that, right? They're not necessarily failures, but lessons learned. And so it has some prompting thoughts for everyone. So we put this out, I think in March, and emailed all of our administrative agencies and asked them to fill it in to their best ability of a project they may already have going on, or if they don't, they need to start one, as they are in our circle of influence. We are funding part of their work, and so this is one of our expectations as a state funder, that we want all of our recipients or subrecipients to focus on a couple of important things. And one of them for this next couple of years is linkage to care. Michael talks about it being the left side of the continuum, right? And it makes sense to start at the beginning, right? You can't get suppressed if you're not in care. So I'm super excited about this project. And I know that every region has different challenges and different populations that are their priority. So we are allowing every region to do it their way, as long as it fits into our project. And we also have another project on viral suppression, but we feel like starting at the left side, that is going to naturally improve viral suppression over time, right? When people first get linked to care, it's going to bring the rates down for viral suppression because they haven't had time to get on meds and get suppressed. But over 3 months or even less nowadays, you see that folks get suppressed pretty quickly. So this will have a lag behind. The viral suppression rate will eventually catch up, but we're going to start with linkage. And I'm really excited about the amazing work that we heard yesterday in our stakeholder meeting, where each of the AAs presented their little charter about what they're working on. So I'll pass it over to Oscar if he has anything to add.
Yeah, go for it.
Sure, absolutely. That's something that is very impressive that catch my attention yesterday on the presentation is, well, first of all, guys, Dallas is in an honor position. So thanks to you, the subrecipient, those who do the work. You, again, thank you so much for that, because you're representing basically the state. Awesome. That is so fantastic. But the one interesting detail from a different AAs is they are evolving different portions around their workflow, or the agencies, or another agencies are actually involving policy changes. So the point is everybody's motivated to involve every aspect where to make this happen and make the whole linkage to care project functional and actually doable in the realistic way. Some of them present some very brilliant marketing campaigns on that one, very innovative. This is fascinating to see how the creativity bring the new ideas into work, and we'll see how that develop. But we are, number one, Thanks to you. Thank you. Go back to you.
And on this slide, it shows the Part B AAs, but just to mention, there are 2 additional administrative agencies in Texas that are Part A and D and C funded, but don't necessarily need the Part B funding at this time. And that's the City of Houston and the City of Austin. And they both also are working on linkage to care. They weren't able to participate in lightning rounds, but both of them do some great work around linkage. I know City of Austin is participating in a Rapid Start initiative, and then the City of Houston also has an AETC that supports Rapid Start, the Rapid Start Institute, and lots of trainings, and some of their outpatient ambulatory clinics are leaders in Rapid Start. So just wanted to highlight, beyond what you see on the slide, there's work going on in every region of Texas. So we're again super excited, and thank you all for participating. As you see the lineup, we selected Dallas to go last yesterday because you all had the most developed, exciting plan based on just looking at the charters, right? So kudos to y'all.
Thanks,
I'll pass it
Julie.
back. Thank
Yeah,
you.
we see some confetti emojis and heart emojis. And what I want to tease out for participants on the call today is like, okay, Jane, okay, Julie, okay, Oscar. So we get that the work we're doing through our regional linkage project rolls up. We get that everybody, you know, the different AAs are all focused on linkage. And despite maybe how we feel at our agency or like the things that still need to be worked on, overall, we've got a great infrastructure and we've got great support and tools and shared vision. But what else? Well, specifically, I want to go back to this slide. So this slide is going to be included in today's webinar toolkit. And what's in it for you? To me, there are 3 immediate things that I think are meaningful to you all as subrecipients. 1, I like how in the top corner here, it says vision of success. As you're working with your teams, as you're coming up with your aim statements, this vision of success is more than your aim statement or your SMART goal. It's really saying collectively, what is success? If we're dealing with linkage and testing, that's going to involve other departments, maybe multiple locations. So in some ways, this is a very different QI project. For folks who are our support service agencies, and you're looking at folks who are new to your services in the last quarter, what does success look like for you guys as an organization? So I like articulating this, the vision of success. I also think another immediate benefit of looking at this charter, I love the project milestones and schedule. One of the things we've tried to do is replicate that through the action plans. Following every one of these webinars, we have an action plan template. And what we're trying to accomplish with that is for folks to articulate what are our critical steps, what are some of the milestones that we want to accomplish, and in what time frame, and also who's the owner of that. So this helps iron out concrete next steps. This is filled with things that might be a stretch goal, but also might be the low-hanging fruit, the sort of quick wins, the sort of things that can more rapidly be accomplished. And that's important for your team morale, right? Sometimes we tackle really big system issues, so it's good to find the small spaces where we can quickly accomplish something that makes a positive impact. So I see this project milestones and schedule as something that your QI team may want to adopt. And then the third benefit when I think of this is it helps you with the big picture of what are the different things we want to discover, discuss, and articulate. And once again, for World AIDS Day, we're going to do another QIP poster symposium. And so this gives you an example of what's some of the content or what are some of the decisions that we're going to work through between now and December to help us, figure out what's the story we want to tell, right? What's the QIP story at ASD? What's the QIP story at AHF AIN? So to me, there's multiple benefits, not only just like, hey, our work rolls up to the state and other people are working on it. To me, there's even more value. And then the thing I want to tease out about the lightning rounds is we talk about, with all of this activity surrounding linkage in Texas, let alone Dallas, this creates sources for leverage and learning. And Oscar specifically mentioned one of the AAs, I don't remember if it's Tarrant County or not, but they got creative with sort of their campaigns. And I believe it's like their STI testing and screening campaigns. So again, your different tests of change, there's lots of options. So we invite you, to use QI to be innovative, and again, to get to do some things you maybe normally don't get to do. And so we wanted to tease out that specific creativity and innovative idea. In order to kind of move along with time, one of the other things that Julie shared with us is, again, that all of this work falls into discovery and their root cause and their change ideas. So this is sort of where they are at the state level, not quite yet to implementing specific discrete test of change ideas. And she also shared with us some of the questions as she asked. So this is also going to be included in the toolkit for today's webinar. And again, these are some of the conversations since the April kickoff. You've maybe had to go back and say, okay, do we provide STI testing on site at the same locations? If we have 4 clinics, do 2 of them maybe do STI testing and 2 don't? If you're a support service agency, how many locations do you have? We know, for example, Legacy has the cottage, as well as other locations where folks can receive services. So again, these are just some questions that are applicable for you and your teams. And we wanted to make sure that we're doing the best we can to support you in your discovery and root cause analysis processes. Things like looking for champions, things like figuring out what is the process for linkage. Is it defined? Is it a policy? We heard from Callie and a lot of other folks that, yeah, there's a protocol when it comes to testing. So again, if that's the protocol, is that, exactly what happens? Because sometimes that's true and sometimes it's not, I don't know. But we're making these questions available. So we see 1 through 5 there, and we also see 6 through 10 here. For our support service agencies, places like legal, do you have some populations that have different needs than others, right? We can tailor these questions in the verbiage just a little bit, but there's still a value add as we think about linkage to care. Michael, I think this slide goes to you, and then we'll turn it back over to Oscar. But just to sort of summarize, again, the framework and all the stuff that's happening, where's the value add for Dallas?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Jamie. Now, as we have been speaking about our nesting dolls, it stands to reason that the state has a role in providing technical assistance and coaching around this project. The AA has a role in providing technical assistance and coaching around this project. And because it is a statewide project, and we're focusing on an issue that really is super strongly aligned with national priorities and our statewide priorities, we've engaged our friends in the South Central Age Education and Training Center to help us, think about how their Rapid Start Institute fits in with what we're doing and how what we're doing fits in with their Rapid Start Institute. So we're probably familiar that we have sites that are across the state. We recently had an adjustment in our DFW region, and the site that had been previously providing ATC services is no longer. So there's a new site that's coming online and should be active with us in July on the other side of the airport over in Tarrant County. So we have this network of love and support putting together this Rapid Start Institute. There have been 2 learning sessions already, and we're putting together a new learning session that will be coming together in September. Now that session is for people who are new to Rapid Start. One of the things that we've talked about repeatedly is that there's turnover in our agencies, there's turnover in our AAs, there's turnover in the allied groups in civil society and in the unfunded healthcare network that we work with all the time. So what the Rapid Start Institute is seeking to do in September is to help provide a re-baselining. And that's going to be a priority of theirs every year to re-baseline for all of the new folks. What is Rapid Start? What resources are available? How do we think about Rapid Start in Texas? By the time we get to November, we will have an additional learning session that's going to be focused on helping us to reach outside of ourselves and into other agencies. So thinking about how we work with all of the groups that are sending us their diagnoses. This is supernatural for the ASD, the legacy, and the legal hospice, because they don't do their own diagnostics. They don't do their own clinical care. They always are relying on clients self-referring into their network or on agencies referring people into their network of services. So all of us also get cases that are referred by the county, cases that are referred by other hospital ERs and different places. So the learning session that's coming up in November really is going to focus on how we work with folks outside of ourselves, and so that we can be a really great net, like the Little Prince, and capture all of these cases so that we can bring ourselves to an end of the HIV epidemic. We have plenty of more TA sessions with you between now and then, but note that the Rapid Start Institute will also include opportunities for applied skill building through twinning and fishbowling at the AA level, and likely at the subrecipient level as well. There is a Rapid Start Learning Collaborative that the county is participating in, that's sponsored by Chickatelli, CAI. And this is co-sponsored by the NACHO, the National Association of City and County Health Officials. And the goal is for the Dallas AA to be rubbing elbows with other groups that are also in a government or network lead position, trying to institute Rapid Start across a number of different provider organizations. So we have this opportunity for the other elements of the AA to be involved in deep learning and just-in-time learning that will help those other parts of the AA to facilitate our full regional approach to linkage to care, and in identifying our regional approach to linkage to care definitions, and also definitions related to our regional approach related to Rapid Start. The last thing to note is that Tarrant County has an internal learning collaborative. They're using collaborative solutions and Chickatelli as well to put together a internal Rapid Start learning collaborative. And some of you may be aware that we are trying to do something similar in Dallas. It's too early to talk about it in too great detail, but what we're trying to show here is that what we're doing is nesting finally into all of these other activities. And these are not duplicated wheels. This is not duplicated vehicles all heading down the highway and bottlenecking and crashing into each other. These are actually kind of trains, cars on a long train, and they're all part of the same thing, moving in the same direction. So it's important to note that over time, if as a region you feel that we're not doing a good job, this doesn't feel like different cars on the same train. This feels like a mess on a highway that's going to turn into a 34-car pileup. We are going to be really interested in hearing that from you and getting that reality from you, that cold water, so that we can do well for you and by you. The idea here is that this is a meta process. This isn't a wildly duplicative, crazy, burdensome process. We would surely fail if we took that approach. And so we're listening and looking for that. So I just wanted to point out that, we have many opportunities for each of you as your different agency types to be able to rub elbows with groups that are in our region and outside of our region, so that you have some really great, solid opportunities for your own deep learning that will further your linkage to care efforts. And that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. We're going to hand it off to Oscar next. Go ahead, Oscar. Let's talk about some resources.
Talking about resources, excellent.
Hey.
It's not just have the LTC resources to support you, but in this case, it's it's not mandated. We have, remember the return to care, we have tablets from Continued. Well, some of you already have there. We have 28 of those outside still running around, which that means that can be useful in different capacities. In this case, I would like to highlight that those devices are used specifically for CQM activities, and we will put it out as an initiative. You be creative. If you need, your process, your workflow, where are the gaps that you can have some help and utilize those devices to communicate with the client? Can be at the testing site, can be at the treatment site, or referral. The face-to-face contact is important and is proven. The first phase, after diagnosis on any kind of disease that you have a contact face-to-face with your provider, you see hope, you see a way to go, you see a hand, you see support, and that enhance the possibility for that patient to be in care, to be adherent to the process, not just on HIV, really. I mean, it is in everything. You need to have someone, another human, face-to-face contacting you, talking to you your same language. So these devices can be a resource in support that. Where exactly? Okay, make yourself where you could apply that into your system, into your processes. I mean, it's your creation. We don't enforce the use of that. We want to open that opportunity for you where you should do it. At the EHE level, where we can use that one for managing brand-wide clients into the system to make them, available, make them more supported, make them feel that they're welcome and we are with them to be in treatment, be in the process, be in the journey. Technology is interesting. Look at that just now. We have that situation. Okay, but let's say someone, next slide, is a little process in a flow. Give me the next slide, Jamie, please. This one is, okay, someone tested positive. Yes. The person have any social determinants of health that you can identify. Medical case managers are actually the evaluators in that situation, the very one-on-one contact. They are the strong communication with the client. It's not even the provider. It's the medical case managers who guide the client into the best pathway to stay in care. So let's say is positive. Yes, has any of the social determinants of health that can be can be tackled utilizing those devices. All right. So let's say yes, it does. Well, that patient could receive that help. Will be up to you. If not, okay, you keep it where? On the site? Do you think it creating a site like original? One of the agencies was with the initiative to have one office for the telehealth. It will be at what level? Treatment level? Counseling level? Point is, you create it, you design it, you know your system, you know your world, you know where exactly we can get that help. If any possibility exists, we have them for you. And we won't discuss this one further because it's a topic that we can manage outside this presentation, but I want to insist this is an opportunity for us to tell you, utilize those devices and continue. Some of you are very familiar with it. You have 24-hour support. 7 days, 24 hours, that's what they offer. And that's true. They are very reliable. They are very good in supporting the case manager, supporting the agency, supporting every single aspect that you need with them. So, and we are so glad to have them working with them. And we already have the connection, the whole legal issues and all the stuff. So it's a go. It's for you to have that as a resource and support on this QIP. So Jamie, go back to you.
Yeah, thanks, Oscar. So as we think about what are some of the resources and supports for this Linkage to Care project, I really do want to go back to what Oscar's saying. We know out of the 100 tablets that and this continued contract that the county's negotiated, we know we have some deployed right now. Or they're at your agency. We know there's maybe different scenarios at play, but we really do want to think about how can this technology resource be reimagined? This is different from return to care. Linkage to Care involves a very wide range of different disciplines and staff. I want to make a commitment with Miranda and Octavio during our EHE huddles is to explore where continued tablets could be useful, maybe for the CHWs. We spent some time talking with Julie, Saber, and Tara, and others from Dishes. Can these tablets be used while an individual is waiting for their STI test, like if they're waiting for the results of their test? Can these tablets be used within our organizations like ASD? So with housing, are there intake forms? Is there patient confidentiality? You can preload these tablets with all sorts of things, right, that an individual can utilize. So again, just thinking through what opportunities are there? How can this technology give time efficiency to your staff, enhance personal autonomy, also address different learning styles, and things of that nature. So we encourage folks to think about and sort of reimagine the use of these tablets. And to Oscar's point, this is something we're happy to do through site-specific TA to brainstorm. And I know, Michael, I got an alert that we have folks with hands up. I know Michael has his hand up. David, your hand might be from before, but we'll start with Michael. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, that our way of thinking about how to leverage these, there's scenarios that have, a graphic that go with it that we could put out there potentially, if that's helpful. We could use a question funnel, if this, then that, if yes, then no, like that type of thing to help us figure out whose hands to get it in. And if anyone's really interested in discussing how to make this type of thing work, oh, fabulous. Well, we can react to that right now, and we can also, take time if there's not the opportunity in today's webinar and folks are really interested in thinking about how to make this work. We could have separate discussions as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thanks, Michael. David, did you want to add a comment? Okay, I think those were all my hands. So again, this is a tech resource in support of Linkage to Care. We've also got our own human capital, the resources of ourselves, the diversity of our brain power and our experiences and our disciplines. So just as a reminder, as we think about the resources we have available through our team synergies, just a reminder of where we're headed. So clinical quality management is no longer in the county going to just be siloed to Ryan White. So within Linkage to Care, Octavio is going to share some of what the EHE side of the house is doing in their Linkage to Care activities and as part of their contribution to this project. This QIP project is not only for Ryan White funded subrecipients. So as we move forward, we really want to start thinking of clinical quality management in Dallas like a big umbrella. And within that umbrella, we have two different funding sources nested. We have Ryan White, but we also have Ending the Epidemic and EHE. And this quality improvement project is one way to bring these two programs together to utilize folks like the EHE, CHWs in a new linkage capacity to leverage things like the county sexual health clinic and DIS. So we just want to remind folks when it comes to the sort of human resources that support Linkage to Care, we're really expanding. And ideally, depending on how quickly we can implement tests of change, very similar to what Julie mentioned with the state, beginning to go outside of our circle of influence and locus of control. And we recognize that when it comes to testing, there are universities that do testing. There are folks outside of both EHE funding and Ryan White funding, and they're part of that care network. They're part of that medical neighborhood. And so we really have fantastic options with this linkage project to first start with bringing Ryan White funded subrecipients and teams and also integrating EHE. So these CQM activities will reside within and be coordinated across the funding streams and no longer just be siloed. So I wanted to remind folks of that when we think about the human resources that we're investing in Linkage to Care. And then I want to introduce Octavio to talk about what EHE has done so far to contribute to linkage to care, because this is going to be our first time to sort of hear about those efforts. And then Miranda, I know you're here. If there's anything you want to add after Octavio walks us through it, go for it. But I'll turn it over to you, Opie.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Hello, everyone. Octavio Posada. I am the EHE or EHE, as we tend to call it back in the West. The EHE CQM consultant, and very excited to be part of this webinar. So as Jamie mentioned, we are in the middle of integrating EHE into the CQM component. Very excited. And to do that, as we can see on the slide, the first step is to create internal capacity building to help improve processes and procedures. And we are doing that by creating internal capacity building, which includes, but is not limited to, as I mentioned, improvement on processes and procedures. We understand that the AA, just like sub-recipients of both Ryan White and EHE, must work on improvements internally, right? That's the first step. As internal improvements are gained, we can explore external improvements, which of course will include you guys. To that end, the consultant team and the EHE County staff, we've begun working on process mapping in support of linkage to care QIP. We are looking specifically in the process between individual testing positive at the county and being referred for EHE for linkage. To start, we're doing CQM capacity building series internally, as I mentioned, for the county staff. We are very excited to share that tomorrow will be our first session. Very exciting. This capacity series will ensure EHE staff develop and understand for what CQM is and what is not, including QI methods and QI tools. This will provide a level set across Ryan White and EHE staff in terms of their QI acumen. Two, introducing EHE sub-recipients to CQM integration. This is just as important. We have, with Jamie and of course EHE staff, began meeting with some of you, EHE funded subs, doing regular check-ins with the EHE staff. This is, of course, to help or start building rapport and introducing EHE folks to the work we'll be doing over the next 2 years. This will help, of course, the recipients to also lay the foundational understanding of CQM and QI efforts. We are also doing similar work for EHE that would include a meatball chart. We feel that it's important for folks, whether funded by EHE or not, to understand what are some agencies on the Ryan White part funded for, what some of the services, because at the end of the day, if we're looking at linkage to care, the referral component is very important. And it's also good to know who is doing what services who is being funded for what services, and what services can then come in place in terms of the HIV care continuum. And these steps will result in a comprehensive CQM program without funding silos. We know how silos can have an impact on processes, but this also will help align goals and resources which can help leverage to improve linkage to care. Finally, all of these efforts will support what we've been talking about for the past 2 years, which is implementing a medical neighborhood. Next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
Also very exciting. We had our first meeting with leadership from SHC, this EHE or EHE, and Ryan White on June 12th. During the meeting, we talked about ID linkage processes for positive HIV STI test at the county. Dr. Huang kicked off the meeting to talk about some of the processes, process map, and right now it's under construction, and we are looking for feedback, and this will begin the first step into knowing what the linkage to care processes are, not just internally, but also we'll do the same with you guys so that we can then have a comprehensive understanding of what linkage to care looks all across the board. This process would also help strengthen greater awareness and understanding of these collaborative relationships internally and of course externally. Miranda, Asper, was there anything that I may have missed from this meeting?
No, thank you, Octavio. That was a great summary.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
I'm really excited. We had aimed to have an actual process map for the linkage for when someone tests positive at the county sexual health clinic. And so you have the physician, Dr. Wada, and others at the county sexual health clinic who are interacting with EHE team, but who are also making external interactions. So they shared, who are the agencies that they call. They did mention AHF and your linkage program. I know there's a lot of dedicated resources and staffing within AHF and linkage. So like they mentioned, for example, working with you as an external partner for linkage. They also mentioned how they follow back up with county DIS as well. And so we've begun doing process maps. And part of that is one, so you know what EHE and other folks internal to the county are doing to contribute to this linkage to care conversation. But second, we want to always share with you that we're not going to ask you to do things like in your discovery process and root cause analysis process that we at the county are also not doing. OP, I'm going to go ahead just for the sake of time. I'm going to definitely advance to this next slide. If you just want to share a quick summary of this as an additional resource for folks in the toolkit.
Jamie? I do have a quick intervention before we move to this slide.
Sure.
And that's an opportunity to utilize those devices on the previous slides on this one. Exactly.
Okay,
And
go for it, boss.
yeah, the thing is, at the clinic, at the sexual health clinic, for example, if they have some hiccups on the having someone connecting with surveillance into the clinic, or they don't have enough staff, because okay, we all know that everybody is overwhelmed, everybody is burnt out, there is not enough staff, there is a very difficult like that. We have that, we can provide that. We have a new hire, D'Angelo, which is in our meeting right now. He is the connection, he is the CQM, the CQM's project specialist. He will be connecting that portion of surveillance into the clinic, or you're gonna hear from him a little bit more because the data, the collection of the metric itself, and the opportunity to use the tools. Just a quick intervention for the sake of time, but thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
thank you, Oscar. Yes, so this is some questions for thought, right? This is this part of these questions are, we encourage you to look at these questions, to use these questions as you begin your internal conversations. Like for instance, you guys like staff. This could be members of your linkage team or your CHWs or other, for instance, right? We've shared these questions before, and these questions are available in GLADS Cubes for part of the QIP's toolkit. So you have these questions, use them as you begin to explore again what CLC like within your particular agencies. And again, we'll talk more about this on the breakout rooms as well. So that's it for me, Jamie. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, OP. Angie, why don't you quickly walk us through some of these reminders?
Yeah, so we're keeping the same structure and pace as we had before. We have our webinars in April, June, August, and October, followed by a poster symposium that happens in December, World AIDS Day. And in between each of those webinars, we'll be doing working on the action period. You'll be working on your plans, the documents, the QIP documents, just working with your internal team, different things like that. So all this kind of looks the same. Next slide, please. Upcoming due dates for September 15th, as well as December 15th, we have PDA safe forms and action plans due. Our poster symposium will be on World AIDS Day, and we are requesting submissions for storyboards 2 weeks before that, November 17th, so that we can get them printed and, everything that has to happen so that they're ready for you when you come here to present in person. Next slide, please. So we're gonna just take a second to look at submissions, the QIP submissions. We had our last week on Thursday, I think it was June 15th. Submissions were due. The AA uses a QIP metric workbook to track submissions and look at things like completion, submitting on time, things like that. And that allows us to prepare for kind of to see the gains and improvements between that you're making over time. And it also helps us to prepare for our webinars, along with the things that are in glass queues and our breakout discussions. Prepare for our webinars and to see things in real time to see if TA is needed. Some of the subs requested extensions, and we're looking at those on an individual basis. But we did want to share this for clarity and awareness. So at the slide, we see the submission type. So we see that the PDSA form, 3 of 9 of you submitted on time. The RCA form, 4 of 9 of you submitted on time. And the action plan, 5 of 9 submitted on time. And the QIP metrics are under review. And that is new for you guys, and that's new for us as well. So we'll give ourselves some, some grace to go through and figure all this out, but we are working on that. Additionally, some of the things that we've seen, the aim statements, some of them need work. Some of them, we want to make sure that you're using a smart aim statement. So go back and look at those forms that you used to fill out to make sure that you're capturing that. Some submitted aim statements that were more like a quality statement for your clinical quality management plan, as opposed to an aim statement for your QIP. So just kind of refresh yourself on that. And I know it's a lot going on, so make sure when you're sitting down that you're doing the right thing on the right document. And one sub used a really good smart aim statement. Most of you are in the planning phases of your PDSA, and most subs used an RCA. And some plan to use but hadn't used yet, and some talked about what they will do. And the most common used RCA tools were the 5 whys and the fishbone diagram. So that's just a quick summary of what we had going on last week. And thank you for whoever has submitted. Thank you all for your submissions, and just double check too. Some people didn't submit everything, so you want to make sure you're submitting all that, because we are keeping track of that. We will be using the PDSA rubric to provide feedback and go through and comments and send back to you all in the future.
Thanks, Angie, and thanks for your careful review. So Angie on our team is looking at your PDSAs and looking at your aim statements, and we're going to have Dee on our team reviewing the QIP metrics, and we'll be able eventually to evolve into sharing data during these meetings as well. But it's great to hear folks utilizing some QI tools for root cause analysis, and these are great examples of the things that lead up to telling your agency story at the poster symposiums. So we have a little over 20 minutes left. And just given the kind of wild world that we found ourselves in with the Zoom webinar settings, we're going to make a pivot. So we had intended to spend the rest of the time in small breakouts, just groups of 3, but we don't have the breakout feature available given the changes apparently here within the webinar setting. So Michael and I have a plan B, y'all, because it pays to pivot. And so what we want to do is we want to open up for group discussion. We know that hearing from one another is extremely important. So we invite you to speak freely and to unmute yourself. And we do have some guided questions. So Michael and I will sort of facilitate this last portion of the webinar. And I kind of want to start off by asking, and this may apply to sites who do the HIV STI testing, but this definitely also applies to folks who are the non-testing sites, so our ASD, legal, and legacy. We know that for folks who are the non-testing sites, you're going to be looking at who's new to your services and how do you verify care. How do you verify that they've been in care? And then the idea is if they're not, then they get linkage. And so that's the linkage piece for them. But do any folks want to share their processes for how they verify if someone is in fact engaged in care, or maybe they need to be relinked? And so again, I welcome anyone from Legal, Legacy, or ASD to kick us off.
Good morning, this is Dwight Harry from ASD. Our process, and we've kind of flow charted it out because it was one that we wanted to be clear both internally and externally, how we confirm that our new clients are indeed linked to care. So one of the first steps is for our medical team is to confirm that with their doctors. So they do that verbal confirmation. Actually, even before that, the outreach team has a questionnaire, a checklist, just verifying their linkage to care. And with or without that information, it's carried forward upon move-in. And then our medical team also does a secondary follow-up. And then thirdly, I, as the QA guy, I check TCT and other databases to confirm that care. And we try to do that within less than 7 days, but our internal measurement is about, less than 3 days to confirm that they're actually linked to care. And that's for every new patient in that 18 to 35 year old African-American that comes through our doors. So it starts at outreach, them applying, and then upon entry with our medical staff, and then just as a secondary confirmation with a database check. That's kind of how we're working it right now.
Thanks for sharing. I love the sort of tiers of controls you have, right? And something that's interesting, I don't know, maybe continued tablets for use by your outreach team is an opportunity. They can take that assessment and be mobile with it. I don't know, but that's really great. Thanks for sharing, Dwight. Would Legacy or Legal like to share, how do you verify? Hey, Brooke, I see you coming off mute, girl. Go for it.
Hey, Jamie. Hey, everyone. So here at Legacy Founders Cottage, it is a requirement that they be linked to care because of the level of care that we're providing, the type of care. They're usually coming in for respite or they've been hospitalized. So that is automatically connected and done at the very beginning when we get a referral. We're working with the medical case managers or the providers to get the documentation, make sure that we have medications, all of that, since we are licensed by the state. As far as the counseling center, we are starting the process. Karen, who does all of our screening for clients coming in for counseling and substance abuse services, our screening tool will now include the question of linkage to care, if they are connected and if they are where that care is. If they're not, it's not a requirement for us. So we still have to look at the boundaries when it comes to mental health and substance abuse, that we can't force that upon them, but making sure that we have the resources and tools available to link them to care and get them connected with one of the care coordination sites. And just give them the information. Part of that counseling session is also really talking about the importance of healthcare and what that looks like for each client. So we'll have the conversation and let it be an ongoing thing, but it will be documented in their chart. It will also be documented in their progress notes as the therapist does their psychosocial assessment, so that they can review that. And ultimately, it doesn't have to be part of their care plan, but it does have to be part of their psychosocial assessment at intake.
Brooke, thank you. And you just shared a phenomenal example of, you have 2 sites where one, it is a requirement and that makes sense because of the level of care. And then 2, it's not. So even within your organization, you have different scenarios. And I love that you there's an update to the psychosocial assessment and the intake at the care center, where there's a question now about it. And part of how you contribute to this QIP in the medical neighborhood is for individuals there where they obviously have autonomy and choice over getting sort of relinked or maybe initially linked to care. That creates a great space where we as a system can say, how do we work together to support that? That's so great. Del, I see your hand.
Okay, good morning. I'd like to hear how people are confirming that someone is in ongoing HIV care, which is how the standard reads. But I believe, generally that would be that the person's in a known HIV care setting. And so my question really gets down to initial doctor's appointment with or without blood work. If you verify that, does there, I guess I'm not stating this very clearly, but when you verify that they're in HIV care, what are the possibilities that you could look for? That they've had that they've had an initial doctor appointment, that they've had initial blood work, and I'm sure this has been worked out before, but I'm not clear about what the possibilities are there.
Absolutely, Del. Kind of what's the criteria or what's the stuff that allows you to go, yes. So I see Joni raise her hand and Julie. I don't know if the ladies are wanting to respond to Del's question.
I have a comment, I guess, in response to Del's question. This is Joni with AI and AHF. And as a support service provider at AIN, of course, we ask clients. So we've added the question to our birth month recertification. Are they in care? Where do they receive their care? Who is their doctor? And when was their last visit, or when is their next visit? And so although it's a self-attestation of their being in care, we can certainly, as I think Dwight mentioned, check it against E2 Dallas or TCT to see if other agencies are verifying. Also, as you mentioned, I think we get referrals from other agencies that are medical care providers that lack support services. So if we're getting a referral, from a medical care provider into one of our support service programs, then obviously, they're in care. But what we found is that clients will enter our services and be retained in care. And then some of our clients have been with us for more than 20 years. And so there are times throughout those years where clients will take a med holiday, if you will, or get out of care and go back into care. So that's why we've chosen to ask it when they do their recertification, so that we're continually asking the question, because someone might enter your agency and have seen a doctor. They may have even had their labs. They may even have been prescribed medication, but 6 months down the road, are they still in care? Are they taking that medication? And then of course, in the medical case management programs, they are doing a medication adherence tool with the clients regularly to, address any barriers or challenges for medication adherence, as well as, retention in care. So I think linking to care is one thing. And I know that's the focus of this year's QIP. Last year was sort of the retention in care, but I think they're vital to kind of continue to ask those questions, because just someone is linked to care today doesn't mean anything, 90 days from now. And I bring that up in our meals program. We have noticed recently that we have a significant number of people who are unstably housed who come to the program on a day-to-day basis, but are not in care and have not been in care for a year or more because of their instability in housing, because of not being able to regularly take their meds get lost, they get stolen, they get wet, all kinds of things. We're actually exploring something here in collaboration with the AHF pharmacy about medication lockers. There's a program in New York, there's a program in Florida, in Miami, and a couple others across the US that have made great progress in having medication lockers. I used to be a probation officer, and they had methadone maintenance programs where you go in and get your medicine every day. And so looking at something like that for those very high risk, unstably housed patients who might be able to attain medication adherence through such a program, but maybe now don't feel like there's an option for them. Many just say, why get it? If I'm only going to have it for a week, it's not even worth going to get. And so many of them just see it as a lost cause or a lost battle. So just looking at creative ways to increase their medication adherence. Thank you.
Thanks, Joni. Real quick before we turn over to Julie. So a couple of things. So I think, Joni, one thing that you've raised that folks can consider, everyone on here, especially our support service sites, is not only how are we asking initially, but are we giving consideration to continuing to just monitor that, through like the, behavioral health care plan or something like that at Legacy, or through recertification for housing at ASD. If we're going to make changes to asking that question as a byproduct of this QIP, do we want to sort of have different intervals of continuing to ask so that we're also thinking upstream about retention? I think though for Dell, I think Dell is looking for an additional layer because oftentimes, like within support service programs, it is very similar to what you said, Joni. Who's your doctor? Like, do you have insurance? What was your last appointment? When's your next appointment? We know that the HOPWA intake actually asks, it's still self-attestation, but it specifically asks about your T cell value, your CD4, and it has another specific question about your viral load. So they actually do go a bit further, but to Dell's point, we're not really getting into what's the nature of a visit. So I think Dell is wondering, what visit types or what sort of indicator lets me say, yeah, you've been linked. So I just want to put that forward for comment, and then Julie, go right ahead.
Sure, thank you, Jamie. So we have some new opportunities for ways that we will be able to share linkage data at the state. And so there's been a work group that's been really trying to define what defines linkage. And so we have a document that really breaks it down, at least for the surveillance data or for the state level data, right? We have, since HIV labs are reportable, and we're also funded by CDC, we have several versions of what definitions of linkage should be by the different funders, by HRSA versus CDC. So we have come to an agreement internally of what that is. And I can share that document with the AA, and then they can choose to share it with the subs or not. But basically, linkage is defined by the state of Texas for HIV linkage to care as a person identified with a new HIV diagnosis, and then how long does it take for them to receive HIV medical care. And we know that because labs are also reported or required to be reported to the state. So we can identify, regardless of who the provider is, if they're Ryan White or not, it will be reported by the lab. We also have backup systems like TCT and all the other Ryan White reporting databases that feed into DCT that will let us know when a medical service unit of service was entered by an entity. So we combine those information sets and then deduplicate them and verify they are true. And then that is the ultimate, yes, they were linked or not. So it's at least for HIV medical care, right? We do not have a definition yet for linking to PrEP because we're not sure exactly who we expect to be linked to PrEP, right? It's an option or a choice by people. Unlike this is like, if you have HIV, you really need to get in medical care. And that's also a choice, right? But either they do or don't. And then if they did, how long did it take? And so it's not necessarily by, did they receive an ART? That is another recommendation by CDC and the National HIV/AIDS Strategy. The problem is, do we have access to every single pharmacy and every single way a person can get a medication? Especially there's clinics with samples, they don't get reported to a pharmacy or by a pharmacy. So the data would not be accurate, at least in our mind, at least from what we understand at this time. We're further exploring that, but for now, we use, did they have a medical visit, which if they're part of our system of care, we will know. And if not, we will know because they had a lab that was reported.
Thanks.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, we'd love to have you share sort of that matrix of the way it's defined. And I'll remind folks on your QIP metric, there's a space for notes. So you can add in something like self-attestation, or you can add in a note or maybe a limitation, based on the best available data to you. Michael, we have a few moments left. Is there a question you want to kind of put out into the space maybe for folks to consider?
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. So this is another question that I think anyone can answer. As we've been working and discussing this now for a couple of months, I know that numerous groups have had rich conversations across their teams inside of their organizations. So I'm wondering if anyone wants to talk a little bit about how those conversations have gone and if there have been any bumps in the road. Also, I'm wondering if as a product of those conversations, you had an aha in terms of people who are missing and need to be at the table in order to figure out this stuff. So I'm wondering if anyone wants to jump in and start.
Hi, everybody. This is Michelle with Legal Hospice.
Hey, Michelle.
Nice to meet everybody. Hi, Michael. Hi, Jamie. So I, just so everybody knows, I'm the new executive director over here at Legal Hospice. So really learning a lot about this fantastic community. As someone who loves to strategize, I find myself to be fast friends with Michael and Jamie because they are brilliant. The state is brilliant, and I appreciate all the hard work everyone's doing. So where I see a gap is just where does legal fit in all of this, because we are the only legal funded institution by Ryan White. So I just look forward to really meeting each and every one of you. A lot of boots on the ground in the future. So I'm, you know, as the new one, wrapping my head around the business. I do want to know, how can we link together? What does that look like? I want you to know me. I want to know you. How can we help you, and vice versa? It's what makes the world go round, is our relationships, right? We love our business and we're passionate about it. And so I'm passionate about how I can support you. So thank you for allowing me to speak, but lots of gaps that we can fill together. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle. Does anyone else want to share? Well, we have 4 minutes. I know that some of you have had some really good conversations, so I might call on you.
Hey, this is Dwight. Our biggest area of engagement was the definitions. What does link to care means versus engaged in care, kind of what Dale was talking about. And we had different departments passionate on both sides of that equation. So we did end up putting in our definition of what linkage to care meant, that the definition that we would use, because we did have a high, there was a preponderance to go with engaged in care definition. So that was probably the hottest for that ASD that we saw, was going with an engaged to care definition versus a linkage to care definition.
Fantastic. That's a really important nuance. Words matter, and the way that we define things and talk about things really matters. So, I'm thinking again about the way that Dr. Morris Harris in the past has talked about Rapid Start, and, to de-emphasize shoving prescriptions in people's face, and instead to think about identifying the social determinants of health and clearing those so that you can more effectively prescribe people with medicine. So, that nuance between Rapid Start versus Rapid Connect, I find great value in that. And so I think that it's really neat that you've had a similar type of journey at ASD. Does anyone else want to share before we end?
This is Dell. I'll just say that 7 days doesn't allow for much period of engagement. So, I think you have to be looking for something that happened within the 7 days after concurrent diagnosis. But anyway, thanks for everyone for sharing how you're approaching this.
Michael, I do want to add that Norma submitted in the Q&A that it's really important to include your data people to make sure you're getting the info you need to truly assess what's going on. So for instance, Kelly found they weren't using all of the codes for STIs. So I think that's a great learning that we can take back to our teams. Keep in mind, if you're a testing site, you're looking for syphilis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea. And so if there are multiple codes for each, you want to make sure you also talk to your data people to ensure all of those are being queried so that we have confidence in the data that we're using to inform decisions. So we'll wrap up with that. That is a great nugget of wisdom. Thank you, Norma. Again, you'll receive an email with the pathway to Glass Cubes, where the slides and the toolkit and your action plan will be housed. In that email, we'll also include a link to the YouTube video, which will have the recording. Thank you all for your contribution in the Q&A and by unmuting, and thank you all for bearing with our tech challenges. Oscar, do you want to say any closing words, or Miranda as well?
Well, I just would like to add that little portion of the thanks, of course, appreciate that. And as you can see, there's a lot of gaps, a lot of pieces that are inconclusive. Okay, what if the person is not linking to 7 days? What we do with it? Or those details need to be tailored, still tune up, but don't get discouraged. This is part of the process that this is the first time we're doing this as well. So let's work on this together, like Piper mentioned on the emails. I love that quote, by the way. And thanks again for your participation and your contribution. Thank you.
This is Helen. I just love those little hearts flying up.
Me
I
too.
don't know who's doing that, but each time I wanted to do it, it came up. So with Dwight and Joni and Jamie and Julie and Michael, oh, I love it. I don't know who's doing that, but this was a great session. And I see that I am more hopeful that we will do all the things we're supposed to do in a very excellent manner.
All those hearts are for you, Miss Helen.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Everyone have a fantastic day. Reach out. Utilize us as a resource to support you and your team in this QIP effort. And have a fabulous afternoon.